There he is. Welcome, John. Welcome to our webinar.
Thank you, Sean. Good morning. Top of the morning to you from a brisk, cold Western Cape.
Thank you so much for joining us, John. And I think you've got quite a presentation. So there's quite a lot that you actually do with, especially dealing with the mind and the way people work. So I think, should we just get cracking immediately on it, because it's actually a fascinating.
Yeah, let's get going. That's what the people are here for. Thank you. Sean, thanks for having me on. First of all, I'm really, this is incredible. This is like a coaching university here that we're having this morning. So well done. What an initiative. Sean, this is, the obstacle is the opportunity. I don't know if there was ever a time when we are seeing so many obstacles, and this is the time. This is your time to shine. This is the time to reframe how you look at the world. And when you reframe how you look at the world, the things that you see will begin to change. So if you begin to see obstacles as mere stepping stones on the road, necessary stepping stones for growth, then your life as a coach or as an athlete or the people that you work with begins to change dramatically. It's all got to do with that mindset. That's the difference between a growth mindset and a closed mindset. And with a growth mindset, overcomes obstacles in the same way as that plant overcame many different obstacles to shoot through and to find a way, if not this way, that way, and to be in the creative headspace as to how we can actually do it and look at the way that we can do it rather than the way that we can't, because there's 1,000 reasons why we can't, regardless of the sport that we're in, regardless of the communities that we're in, all the obstacles that are in our way right now. The most important thing is that we see this as an opportunity for growth. So that is a really, really important thing. In my own life, I've encountered many obstacles, and I'm sort of going to tell the story to a large degree of my own life and the obstacles that I overcame. And I suppose when you share that with others, it encourages others to do the same thing and uplifts others to do exactly like that. And we've got some great takeaways as well at the end. Some of the most significant learnings in my lifetime of sport as well. I'm going to share those right at the end, guys. So stay with us for the next while. So we can move on into our next slide. Guys, I was born in, I'm Irish by birth, but I'm South African by choice. I lived the most of my life in Ireland, but I choose to be here despite all the difficulties that are here right now. It's a difficult place to live for us all, but in the difficulties is incredible growth. That's the way I'm choosing to look at it. So I was born in abject poverty. I was born in a house that had no running water, no toilet. And when you're born in poverty, there's a lot of other things that go with that. I'm not going to go into that too deeply today. The photograph on the right is my grandfather. He was a bare knuckle fighter, and that photograph was taken when he was almost 80 years old. So he was not a man to be trifled with. I got to know him after his 80s, and he was a very significant figure in my life. And we move on again. So that's where I grew up, guys. Radically different part of the world to here. In Ireland as well, we had an awful lot of violence. We had violence in the 80s and the 90s. We had violence on the streets. In my case, there was violence in school and violence at home. So yeah, that's what we had. We can move on again. Unemployment as well, guys, was rife. Most of the people I matriculated with left Ireland. Ireland's greatest export is its, not its music, but I think it's its people. There are 14 million plus Americans that have Irish ancestry, and we've gone all over the world, despite the fact there's only 4 or 5 million people in the country. There's 40 to 50 million Americans alone that have got Irish ancestry. So yeah, we go again. Just quickly giving you a snapshot of the place grew up in the environment I grew up in. My first job was as a bin man. That was my first job. Well, I also did the sport of rowing. I remember at one stage we were getting swimming lessons down near the rowing club, and somebody just walked up next to me and said, if you stay with this sport, if you go rowing, one day you could row for Ireland. And I chose just to accept that as being the truth. And wow, for me, that was an incredible discovery. Hurling is the national sport of Ireland, guys. It is the fastest field sport in the world. And we're going to take a look at that. I was soaked in that. My father, all my family were involved in it at a high level. It's an incredible game. It's got physical contact, speed, and a massive amount of skill as well. I'm going to show you, we have got a video here of the All-Ireland hurling final from about 2 or 3 years ago, and we're going to have a quick look at it and watch this carefully.
Now that's Star Barrett, renewed heart, renewed energy, feeds it forward here, all the way down towards John O'Dwyer, trying to run for Paul Murphy. Murphy's lost his stick. Here comes Bubbles. Oh, what a goal! He sticks it in the corner of the net for his 5th ever championship goal, and now it's 180 to 114 and Tipperary lead with 48 minutes gone in the All-Ireland final.
You can see here that this guy hits that well on the run, and he manages to put top spin on that ball, guys. So the keeper's got that easy, and suddenly that ball dips. What incredible skill! Yeah, so it's an amazing sport. We could move on. And I was involved in the coaching of that sport an awful lot as I got older. That's where I learned to swim, and that was the sport that I took up. The sport of rowing, and I believe what that guy said. You know, when we don't say an awful lot, we don't say enough, should I say. We don't speak life into people in sport enough. You know, we don't give enough praise. We seldom take time even to ask, how's that going? That 20 seconds that guy spent talking to me changed my life. He just said, you could row. He didn't say I was going to, but he saw the potential some way. And I chose to accept that as a fact and actualized it and went on from it. That was to be an incredible sport. We can move on to just another picture as well coming. So I encourage coaches that every opportunity that you get, that you speak positivity into people, that you speak life into people, that you speak hope into people, as well as, you know, coaching the skill sets. I really believe that coaching the skill set, the technical and the tactical at a certain level, you know, that's the base for being a coach. Beyond that, you know, then you've got the ability to be able to motivate somebody. Really great coaches as well can do that in different ways. And beyond that, again, you must look at the human being in the human being's totality, like full circle. And there's an awful lot going on there. And you must be able to, in some way, inspire. And isn't that what great coaches can do? If you look at Klopp in Liverpool, he's not just very good at what he does technically or tactically, but he's got something way beyond that in the way that he's united a community around that team, and he's articulate, and it's always about the team. That was a photograph here from the Mexico City Grand Prix Regatta, winning a silver medal. So all appeared to be going really well, and I was on my way to becoming an international successful athlete until one day I woke up, and Sean's going to show something really bad was going on. So yeah, I had a severe bulging disc on my back, and I did everything I could to get rid of it, but I could never make it go away. It's still with me to this day, and I tried to do all sorts of stuff to rehabilitate it. And so this became a massive obstacle in my life, because this was the one sport that I was successful at. This was going to be my vehicle for my own upliftment, to change me as a human being, not only to make me successful in the, in the sport of rowing, but to change me forever. So one of the things I tried to do as well to get more mobility and flexibility was to take up the sports, of martial arts. And we can see on the next clip on that. So you might recognize that photograph on the right. The guy on the left, his name is Bruce Lee. The guy on the right that's his coach, Grandmaster Jihan Jay. So there's a saying in martial arts, and it's so true in life as well, guys, that if you were to spend your first year looking for the correct coach, it would be the best year in your martial arts career. So that speaks to who we surround ourselves with, both as coaches as well. It's important for us as coaches to have mentors and to take time. None of us knows it all. None of us has all the answers, and every coach should have a coach. I chose Bruce Lee's coach, Grandmaster Jihan Jay. I traveled to train with him in the United States. I actually even brought him to Ireland, where he stayed in my house with me and trained in my gym with me as well. So that's what I did. And it led me on a journey where I traveled all over the world. I traveled from the Philippines, all over the United States, in pursuit of what this martial arts journey could offer me. And I explored it to the full. You've got to go all in life. There's no point in being around the fringes. If you're doing something, like Coach was saying earlier on, Coach Infinito, like do it right and do it properly and do it disciplined. And that's how you're going to get the rewards from it. So for me, and we're going to see in the next one, I love the idea of power and strength. And I started developing my own feats of strength within the martial arts culture. That's a solid steel bar. And I bend that with my teeth. It is quite possibly one of the most uncomfortable feelings that you'll ever, please don't ever try this at home. It is an incredibly uncomfortable feeling. And that's me performing in Coney Island in New York City. But if you're going to do something incredible in life and you're going to be somebody different, you're going to be a great coach or a great athlete, guys, there's a price to be paid. You can't live, if you want to live a normal life, you ain't going to do that. You ain't going to live an extraordinary life by doing normal things, should I say. And there was a price to be paid for this as well, as you can see going forward. That was the price to be paid. I've broken my jaw. That tooth doesn't look too hot either. But that's a price I was prepared to pay. Success has a price. But the price is always worth paying. I did things that I only dreamed of, as you can see in the next clip. As a child, I always dreamed of one day performing in Ripley's, one day being on a Ripley's show. And we can see that in the next clip. And one day, if you stick with it and you believe in your dream, that anything is possible. I became a Ripley's cartoon character at age 50. I performed in Ripley's in Times Square in New York City. It has a price to be paid, but it is always, always worth paying. I'm going to show you another clip, guys, of a world record that I set. Another very uncomfortable feat of strength. This one is where I drive a 6-inch nail through about 7 centimeters of wood with my bare hand. I think we can roll that one, Sean.
Yeah, that was my first time. That was just in around 3 inches. I'm going to call it close to 3. It was very close to 3 inches. That is a mental space that you have to get in. That is, some of the feats are quite strength orientated, and more of them are like extremely technical and mental. And the mood you have to get in to do that, I'm sure you could see it on my face. And what I had to do I put my entire life on the line in that particular one feat. I put everything that my life stands for into that one feat. Everything I gather in and bring into me. to do that one thing, because the driver and 6-inch nail to 3 inches of hard wood that's something, it's hectic. And the doubt and the fear that you have before you do it, because none of us wants to absorb that kind of pain. If the nail doesn't go through, it's really, really sore in your hand. It can damage you. But it's about, if that symbolizes anything, it's overcoming doubt and fear. When I drive that, when I go one, and even on the second one, I'm doubting, and everything, there's a war. It's got like the war inside your mind, the war of fear, the war of doubt. Or are we on the front foot? And today I got on the front foot with that. I pushed that back another fraction in my mind, and from there I'm going to do other things. I believe nothing's impossible. I'm almost 50 years old. I believe I'm going to be stronger at 60 than what I am at 50. I believe that. Because I believe it, I will be.
Thank you, Sean. Guys, fear kills more dreams and more possibilities than anything else. There's a song by a group called Switchfoot that says, I am the war inside, I am the battle line. And every day, each one of us has to face this war that goes on inside our own mind as leaders and as coaches. We have to fight this fight between, these negative thoughts and the thoughts of positivity. And I often tell people that if, with that in mind, ask yourself how much of the news is positive? Very little. Even how much of the back page is positive at the moment? Sports, not a lot. How much of social media is positive? Very little. So if you're feeding your mind with something that's predominantly negative, don't expect positive results. Until your faith in what the future is going to hold for you is stronger than your fear of what the past held, you're not going to make progress. And that's a war inside your mind, and that's a war that you fight every single day, and that's a war that only you can win. Can show you the way, but only you can fight it. No one else can fight it for you. So this is the war we all fight between fear and doubts. Since I came to South Africa, guys, I've been very fortunate to work with some incredible athletes here in South Africa. I suppose most notably the journey I traveled with Luva Manyanga, who became the world long jump champion. And when I encountered him, was banned at the time banned from competition for taking crystal meth. And it was a particular journey I was very proud of, to travel for 1.5 years with him. No longer with him, but the memories will always be there. So this is just a clip of a few athletes that I had the pleasure of working with since I came to South Africa. We can roll it, Sean. Thank you, Sean. Guys, if there's one thing I could say that all of these guys have in common, that none of them was born a winner. They created themselves, or they were created, and those around them helped to create them. I've never in my life seen so much talent as what I have in this country. I've been to 47 different countries around the world, never seen the amount of talent, but that talent needs to be handled carefully, and it needs to be matured, and it needs to be brought forward onto the next steps. And one of the other things that I've seen, particularly in this country, is that the need for coaches to accelerate up the chain. I've seen coaches that can deal with 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, and 16-year-olds like no one else can. And that's their speciality. But yet everybody wants to work with the under 18s, or everybody seems to want to go forward to be a professional coach, etc. But as a coach, you've got to play to your strengths as well. And your ability to work with a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old, that could be the game changer for them. That could be the coach that changes in the same way as there was somebody changed my life. And he didn't really have an awful lot to do with me going forward after that. He said something in about 20 seconds that changed my life. We have no idea of the power that you have as a coach. They say a good coach can affect more change in 1 year than most people can in 20. That's the power we have in us. But that's it. I think, in fact, I'm sure of the fact that an awful lot of the time that we don't recognize that power that we have within ourselves, and we don't use it enough. We don't speak into it enough. And really, we've got to become, in an awful lot, we're more confident of that ourselves. So things were going well for me in South Africa until in 2016, again, hit another crisis with my lower back injury, ended up in ICU, ended up with a fairly major back operation. And at that time, I was told, you ain't going to perform those feats of strength again. Put those steel bars, those horseshoes, put all that away. That's behind you now. You ain't going to be able to do that again. And when some people speak negativity over me, I've got this habit of saying, or not. When they say something, I just, in my own mind, I say, or not. And I rule that out. And I wanted something big. I wanted something to pull me out of this because I couldn't walk. I was on crutches for 9 months. I was in bed for months after this, where I could barely walk 10 meters after this operation. And I needed something big. I needed a big, audacious goal or dream to help me to pull my way out of this. There's a feat of strength in what these strong men that I work with do. It's called the red nail. It takes about 230 kilos of pressure to be able to bend one of those things. It's considered a world-class feat of strength if you can bend one of those bars with your hands in less than 1 minute. It's considered world-class. I wanted to do 7. I wanted to do something out of this world. I needed something to pull me forward, to get me up, to get me out of bed, to keep me motivated, something that I could hang on to that was going to get me there. And I chose exactly when it was going to be. I wanted to do it in New York City. I wanted to do it in a particular venue with a particular group of people, with a particular crowd. I wanted to do it there. I visualized it all. I believed I could do it. With everything that was inside me, I saw it 10,000 times. And a year and a half later, in 2017, guess what happened? Next slide. I broke a world record and set a world record in New York City. That's what happens, guys, when you set those dreams. When you set those dreams, that if your dreams and your goals don't make you uncomfortable and don't make you like almost your tummy roll, you ain't setting something that's strong enough. So you've got to have goals for yourself as coaches. You've got to have goals for the athletes that you work with and the teams that you work with. When you set goals and when you write it down in paper, very few people have written goals. I'd say less than 2 to 3%. Less than 1% have them written down clearly and know what they are. That 1% tends to rule the world in terms of sport and every other single endeavor. You can move on, Sean. Guys, I'm just going to show you maybe some pictures. This is where I live in Paarl, just outside Cape Town. I'm sure some of you will be familiar with that area. I've got gyms here and like functional training facility where I work with incredible athletes and upcoming athletes as well. I've got a passion for the communities, so I've opened up my own NGO. It's called the Emerald Foundation. You can see it on the right-hand side. And the Emerald Foundation exists for the upliftment of South African youth through the vehicle of sport. As I was uplifted as a youth through the vehicle of sport, I want to give that back. And I want to give it back in abundance. And I want to change the lives of thousands, tens of thousands actually, of young people who can self-actualize and can have a different experience of life completely through the world of sport. For me, one of the big things for me was going into the community. And I know a lot of coaches go into the communities and schools, and they pluck the great athletes out of the community. And look, there's nothing wrong with that in a sense. It's good for the athlete. They definitely benefit from it, and their families may benefit from it too. But I've got a contra opinion here. I believe we've got to go in and work heavily inside and change the lives of people who live in the community. That's one thing, that's an outpouring I'm beginning to see, because all communities are affected by a very small group of confident, articulate people. And that's what, I mean, we're building through the vehicle of sport in the community. I think we've got a video, Sean, next. I think maybe we can go from there to the next video, yeah.
This is the township of McQueen, located 60 kilometers from Cape Town. This is the township of McQueen, located 60 kilometers from Cape Town on the southernmost tip of Africa. It's home to almost 50,000 souls, half of whom live in informal settlements, shacks without running water or toilet provision. Less than half the teenagers in Bekwini have attended high school.
Awesome, thank you, Sean. You can see, guys, you know, that's how you begin to change lives. One of the athletes on the right is Junior Mpufu. I think he was the junior triple jump champion of South Africa from the township of Bekwini, and I think he's gone on to university now as well. The athlete and working with athletes from his really, really diverse backgrounds. The athlete on the left there was Valko van Wyk as well, became pole vault school's pole vault champion, and from two completely different guys working together. We like to work as well in the same gym, work the same programs. Yeah, this is what can be done, and to allow all these young athletes to achieve their highest potential. That's a marvelous. It's just such a to make contribution. You know, one thing as coaches, there's a thing in life we need. There's a lot of things in life that we need, but the ability to make contribution is one of the most significant things in life. It's what we do as coaches. We put something good out into the world, and that's a reward in itself. if you never coached a winning team as such, you've changed the lives over the course of history, of hundreds of people. And guys, the way it is now, the multiplier effect, every person you change affects another 100 or 150, in some cases, thousands of people. Who was like Sia's coach, and how many lives has he affected, and how many lives has he changed? So you never know who you're working with. You never know who's going to be the next world champion. You never know what life that will be. That's some of the joys of coaching. We can go on, Sean. We're almost there, guys. The big takeaway is that's my gym in Val de Vie. We've got an incredible facility there as well. We work with many elite athletes as well there. Some Olympic teams visit us and use it as a training base as well, such as the French cycling track team, and many other great rugby players as well. We can move on. Guys, I often use this as the wave. Tough times are here, and sometimes the waves appear to be incredibly strong, and sometimes they appear to be that we've got no hope and that the wave is going to smash. But we've got no control over the waves. It's not within our control. We've got no control over the world economy. We've got no control directly over what the government does, or even to a large extent of what goes on in our own communities. But we've got no control over the wave, but what we do have control is over ourselves. Maybe that rather than be smashed by the wave, that we can learn to surf, that we can find a way. And that's the change, guys. Rather than the waves, we can't control that. That's going to come. But how we adapt and how we respond is always significant. That is the thing. As coaches, our ability to adapt to the situation, improvise, adapt, and overcome. Our whole life is about obstacles. Our entire coaching career is about obstacles and managing that system, how we're going to. So let's have a look at these 7 takeaways, guys. First one. You've got to have a goal. You've got to have a dream. But a dream is just a dream. A goal has a plan and a date. You've got to begin with what the end is in mind for your own coaching career or for the team, what that might look like. What would your greatest self as a coach look like? What would be the highest potential, the greatest thing that you could do in your coaching career? As we said earlier, it must take you out of your comfort zone. Goals must be short-term, medium, and long-term, and they must cover all the areas of your life. Because if it's only about your coaching career, other aspects of your life can fall out of control. I mean, you often see that. And we are living in many, many different areas in our life between the people we coach, our own families, our own work responsibilities, lots of things in communities, and the balancing, to keep all of those up in the air. That's a balancing act. So there should be goals and have a system approach towards it. So you can say goals is one thing. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to write it down. But if you wake up tomorrow morning and there's nothing going on in that day that's going to move you a step closer to that, then you've wasted your time. So the ability to put systems in place, if that's a daily practice, like every day I gym, that's just a system in place. I don't go to sleep without doing something, okay? Every day I read or I listen to great material. You will be the average in the 5 years' time of the people that you speak to, the people you surround yourself with, the media that you consume. Okay, so what are you doing about that? What are you going to do to change that? What are you going to do to make that more positive? What books are you going to read? What video content are you going to? I know I'm speaking to the choir a little bit here. You're here this morning because you want to become better. Hats off to you for that. Genuinely, we keep that going. It's not a once-off. Feed your mind continuously. That's the first one. Second one. This is important. If the mind is not led, the mind will lead. It goes straight into that last point of So you set your goal. Tomorrow morning you said, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go for a 5K run or walk or whatever, and I'm going to do something every day. But when you wake up, this mind says, oh, I'm a bit tired this morning. It's Sunday. I shouldn't really do something on Sunday. You know, maybe let's do it on Monday, or let's do it Sunday afternoon. And you know what happens when you start to put that off. So if the mind is not led, the mind will lead. If you don't lead your mind, if you don't have goals, if you don't put systems in place which corner you into doing things, make commitments to teams, to individuals which corner yourself into performing these tasks, it ain't going to happen. So you've got to get control over that conscious mind, that lazy bugger who doesn't want to get out of bed. That's not the real you. Einstein said that the intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. This intuitive mind, who you really are, and this rational mind that doesn't want to do anything, basically, just wants an easy life, doesn't want to get out of its comfort zone, doesn't want to go anywhere any day, is afraid of taking risks, afraid of taking chances, and that is the war inside your mind. Who's going to win that war? Either you lead your mind, or your mind will lead you. Guys, this is a big takeaway. Before we go on to number 3, have a think about that. Thanks, Sean. Visualization. Not only do you have to write it down, not only do you have to put a system in place in order for you to achieve it, but here is where it can get really good. I mean, if you can start to see it, visualize it. Because remember, the mind cannot tell the difference between a real and imaginary experience. And if you can visualize that and visualize it with feeling, now you're pulling that into your life. And we do pull things into our lives. If you're ever changing a car and you're interested in getting this type of car, suddenly that type of car appears everywhere. And so it is with a goal that you set and have all those goals around your life. They start popping in and opportunities start popping. Remember, success is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. And doing this and following these steps is a way of preparing. The chances come, but will we be ready to take them? That's the question. I love the word I am as well. I think whatever you follow that word with, people say, oh, I'm not good with that. I'm useless with this. Oh, I'm not good with that. I mean, if you can change that around, and whatever you put after it, you start busy. You get busy creating that. You should have daily I ams. I try to do that with visualization. I try to do that first thing in the morning when I wake up, last thing at night before I go to sleep. That's where the conscious mind begins to drift. That's where it's open to more suggestion. You're almost in a hypnotic state. It's a difficult time to do it, but if you can push through, use the word I am and visualize it, I can tell you that whatever you're visualizing and whatever you're feeling with meaning and intent at that time is just about to realize in your lives. We can move on again. So keep that going. Keep that visualization going. Make that a daily practice. To lose one's health when the science know, art inglorious, strength unavailing, wealth useless, and eloquence powerless. Herodotus, I think that was about 2,500 years ago that was said. And was it ever more pertinent and more important than what we see today? This is about health, and definitely sport has the ability to contribute and to put health way up there in the daily lives of others. Sport isn't always about health. Wellness and illness are two opposite sides. Sport can also be excessive, but it is important to us as coaches as well that we show, people are learning an awful lot more from who you are and how you go about things than necessarily the words that you say. So it's important for us, to be healthy, to be able to come from that place, to be authentic in our own communication. So that's, we can move on, but health is vital, guys. It's a pillar. These are all pillars. That's the wellness. Fitness isn't, I mean, if you're an elite athlete and you're incredibly fit, it's not the same as being well. A lot of elite athletes, I mean, if you look at a lot of rugby players nowadays, wow, I mean, their bodies are breaking. So one's got to be aware of that. And you've got to stay more in this space of wellness than having your body broken. It's very temporary. I know it pays well, but there's a lifetime after that as well to be subject for another talk. But I want you to be aware of that as well, and aware of, you know, the repetition. Repetition is fantastic, but also it's got to be disguised, and it's got to be in order to keep the body from breaking down and people we work with as well. So we move on to the next one. Just be aware of that, guys. I love this principle, high interval intensity training. I'm not going to go massively into it, but it is something to be aware of. The effects of it are incredible. Check it out yourself. It's a principle that I follow when I'm working with athletes and teams as well. Obviously, the ingredients for training different groups will differ depending on the sport, be it an endurance or a power sport. It will differ, but these are principles. Just talking, and personally, the next one as well is also very important to me. Intermittent fasting, I think, is the next one. I also do this quite a bit personally, and some people I'm working with as well. I do it with them, not all athletes at all, but I do it with some people I'm working with. Basically fast for 16 hours a day. I don't always do it, but for large sections of the year I do, where I basically eat before 8 o'clock at night and I don't eat until 12 o'clock again the day after. That's a principle that I follow. It's a system that I follow. So it's about, when I train, I have HIIT type training 2 or 3 times a week. I have this in my life an awful lot. I get on it, on off of it. These are principles. You'll see, guys, an awful lot that every magazine, every time you go on YouTube, there's a new way of getting six packs. There's a new way of getting fit. It's this, you know, like sport has become a commercial activity, and so there's methods of doing everything. But at the end of the day, there's very few principles with sport, or very few principles in life, and those who stick with the principles will be successful, and then you can choose whatever methods you like if you're sticking with principles. That's a very important thing to remember. There's never been so much information out there and equally so much disinformation. So stick with principles. And next, Sean. Picasso said the purpose of life is to find your purpose and then share it with the world. And in the coaching context, you know, you've got to find that space that works for you at that level that works for you, but be ambitious. Absolutely be ambitious, but find the greatest. What would that greatest self look like? How would that be? And find that sweet spot. This is a Japanese principle of what you love to do, what the world needs, what you get paid for, and what you're actually good at. There's a sweet spot in the middle of all of that. And as a coach, you must look for that sweet spot. What is that? What would that look like? Because when you're in your purpose, there was also a quote that if you find a job you like, you'll never have to work again. I'm sure you know it's like coaching is like that for an awful lot of us. When you're there, when you're with people, you're working with people, it's not like work at all. That's how good it can be. So look for that spot. Keep that as a principle. Write that down. What is it? And what is it for your athletes? Like so many times we put a square peg in a round hole in the South African context as well. We've got so many people who are capable of doing different things, guys. Be aware of that and lead everyone towards their greatest thing. If you've got somebody who could be the great cricket player and you're the rugby coach or the football coach, you must put them in that place. You must advise them to go and do that. Even though oftentimes if you're good with a ball, you're good with a ball, right? They can be very good, but if you must guide them towards, that could be the conversation that changed their lives. Instead of being the guy who says, no, you must pull in and play with the team and all for the school and all of that, you know, that's all fine in certain contexts, but you may be dealing with one of the greatest cricket players of all time. And actually, despite the fact that you may never have coached him in cricket, you're the one who led him there and maybe played the most significant role in his or her life. Because without you, they wouldn't have got there. They'd have been swimming around doing all sorts of different things and never excelling at that sweet spot and never actually finding their purpose. Remember, our job is to find our purpose, and by doing so, help hundreds and maybe thousands of others to do the same thing. Thanks, Sean. So guys, this is the essence of coaching here. There's a lot here. Contribution, guys, we spoke about it already. Live for what you give, not for what you can get. I think, to be fair, as all coaches, don't we do that? Even Sean, what you're doing here this morning, putting this together, what you can give, how you can help coaching, how you can help thousands of people through that, not for what you can get. So we're all on the same page here, guys, and I really honor everybody who's here this morning, making this, and Sean for contributing to make this what it is as well. We can move on. As a coach, guys, self-care isn't selfish. It's a gift to you, and that everyone matters in your life. I've noticed an awful lot of coaches, and they really don't look after themselves like they should. We need some rest. We need some TLC. We need to take time on our own fitness, our own wellness, our own families as well. Don't be a martyr, because you can only give from a space of overflow. If you're not overflowing, you're just pitching up, and actually you're not able to give much of yourself. So it's very important that you go back to those principles, and you're making sure that you're doing some things every day that fills your cup. You're doing some things at the weekend. You're doing some things with your day off. You're switching your phone off. You are surrounding yourself with incredible people. You're out in nature, whatever that is for you, going for a cycle, walk, jog, run, staying fit and healthy yourself, doing something in the communities, whatever feeds your soul. Take time to do that. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to sustain your coaching career, and you're not going to be able to give truly of yourself. So, Sean, these are the big takeaways, guys. That's the big 7. Anything's possible. The obstacle, guys, is the opportunity for growth. That's why we're in this game, to grow and help others grow. I'm very grateful, Sean, for the opportunity. If there's any questions you have, guys, feed them through, please.
Okay, so Marta says a lot resonates with her. What books would you recommend? Not on fitness, but on wellness itself.
Sure. I actually watch, I'm very visual. I actually ended up watching an awful lot. Now, I've read a lot of books historically, but I watch a lot of, be they movies, be they YouTube clips. I listen to people like Tony Robbins, been around an awful long time. I listen to him. There's an awful lot of thought leaders out there in the wellness space. Yeah, he would be the guy I went to historically, the guy I still go to. He's got a great mixture of the way he's able to pull different things in together. I read stuff from all sorts. I mean, biographies of other great people as well. You learn from their lives and what they had to overcome. And you find like that oftentimes the greatest people in life and in history are the people who have overcome the most. So I end up watching a lot of stuff and listening to podcasts as well, perhaps on people who overcome great difficulties in their lives as well. So yeah, that would be my go-to. If I could only say one, that would be the go-to. I've got a lot of books, but that's what I would recommend. Yeah.
And Jason asks, how important is EQ as a coach working with teenagers?
Oh, everything. I think EQ is more important than IQ these days. everything. Great question. I think the EQ will really determine your success in life as a coach. I think as a coach, if you get there, presuppose that there's a certain amount of IQ there anyway, and really it's the EQ, your ability to communicate with people. Not, in all walks of life. No, I think the time has well gone where you could just depend on that you are very strong in a particular aspect of your life, and if you can't communicate with people, you're dead in the water. And if you can communicate well with people, articulately and clear, to go back to Club, I think he's an amazing communicator. I think is that possibly his greatest success? Maybe for me it is his ability to communicate clearly. He's a wonderful, wonderful. I'm not necessarily a Liverpool fan, guys, but I admire great coaches. Yeah, what they bring. He's the most articulate, greatest communicator that I can see out there. He brings across his passion. Very important.
SS asks, are there any exercises to strengthen my mind as a coach to achieve my goals?
Mind strengthening exercises. I'd say the greatest mind strengthening exercises would be to set those goals, write them down, commit to a plan of action, put systems in place, follow through in it, visualize, take the weeds out of the garden. Negative thoughts, they say, are like weeds in the garden. The weeds grow all the time. They grow quickly, they grow fast, they don't need to be tended. Positive thoughts are like the flowers or the seeds that you plant. They have to be watered continuously, they have to be really well looked after. But after a while, your garden changes, the flowers come true. There will always be weeds, but they're easy to tend and easy to look after. So if you work, and I like to create simple analogies here. If you can deal with your mind like that, read positive content, have great communications with people, make contributions wherever you can, random acts of kindness towards people. That's what we need in this country now. It's the same thing you need to be a great coach, a great human being, to be a leader, to start uniting people in this country, not dividing people. It's very easy to divide. We're being divided left, right, and center at the moment. And to stand against that, I think to be a great coach, you've got to be uncommon. You've got to be what we call a fish that swims upriver. You can't go with the flow, only dead fish go with the flow. You've got to be able to lead as a coach. We always have a choice, in any organization or any group that we're in. We choose to lead, follow, or leave. When you're a coach, you're leading. Here, we follow. I go to courses, I follow other people, or we decide not to. But be clear about that. And so these are the wonderful things that you can do, and find yourself in the company of great people who have strong minds and who are determined. Read about those people. We have never had access to so many people. So many people are dead 50, 60 years, and we have access to them through YouTube. We can still hear their voices. We can still virtually be in communication with them. So find that. The other thing is find the voice that makes sense to you. We're all unique and we have different triggers, but find that, and that will bring out your own uniqueness as well. And don't be a copy of anybody else. The great Oscar Wilde, the great Irish writer, he said, it's better to be yourself because everyone else is taken. But we live in a very much copycat world. That's what social media, etc., encourage us to do. So be unique, be yourself. That's the greatest gift you can give to the world. And don't ever stop doing that. That's really, really inspiring in today's world. Have your own unique thoughts, not something you read in a newspaper, not something you heard the commentary on TV on it, not something even you heard here this morning. Make up your own mind on things. That's mental strength, having the ability to step out and say things based on your own years of coaching. And that's, as you do that more and more, the better you will become as a coach, and more mentally tough you will become as well.
It has a question. It comes, two people have actually asked a very similar question, but in society, a lot of kids, through society, through what society says and through the news, they believe in certain limits. And, what's the first step to breaking that belief? I know you've covered it in your presentation also, but just a bit of a recap also. What's the first step into breaking that belief? I just think of like the Roger Bannister story of breaking the 4-minute mile, and then within months of him doing that, everybody could do it, but prior to that, nobody could. And then what is the best way to inspire your kids to follow their dreams?
So in relation to breaking the belief systems, we often have self-imposed belief systems. And belief systems can be put on us by parents or by schools or by others. So breaking that, I think it's the most important thing is that you start with the low-hanging fruit, that you choose something that you can almost do, and that inspires you to go a little bit more. I didn't start bending the biggest bar that size in my teeth. I started bending something smaller, something that I could possibly do, as uncomfortable as that was. And you just get more confident in it, and you find a groove, and you start to believe in yourself a little bit more. And it's the analogy of that flower. You have a seed. And to tell everybody as well is that every human being has a talent. And as a coach, maybe we should just talk about the Pygmalion effect. That was a study carried out a long time ago in the United States, where a teacher, call it a coach, went into, there was 3 new teachers hired in the school, and the teachers were brought into a group and said, this group is absolutely amazing. These are the stars. You must challenge them. Middle group was, these are so-so, some good, some bad. And then there was the other group, which was the hopeless cases. God help you with this group. You're going to be challenged, but in very different ways with that group. And at the end of the year, the exams obviously took place. And what they found is that the group that was expected here to do well did really well. The group was expected to do average, did average, and the group was expected not to do well, didn't do well. However, the kicker here and the surprise was that the school had changed the classes right around. And the teacher thought they had the great group was actually the poorest group. The teacher thought had the average, had the average, and the teacher thought that they had the best one, had the worst one. So what that study shows is that largely as well, it's the expectation of the coach is massive. Remember that more than 90% of communication is nonverbal, and children and adults pick up from what we speak, the words, they pick up the cues of what we speak about. So one of the greatest things as a coach, if you're going to break the limiting beliefs of the team, is to break our own limiting beliefs to see what's possible for this team or this athlete to achieve. And then to start with the low hanging and say, you got that. You didn't think you could get that, and you got that, and now you're here. It's about closing gaps, guys. I started working with an athlete who could do, was it 7 push-ups 8 months ago, just as one test. Now they're doing over 60. It's about closing the gap. Now we're going to go for 10. You get over 10. 15 is there. 20 is there. You just close that gap until it's there. So start with the low-hanging fruit, work from there. Believe it yourself first. If you don't believe in the team ain't gonna do it. So yeah, that'd be my suggestion for that.
Perfect. Thank you, John. Thank you so much for today. It's been absolutely enlightening for me. It's as always, you're continuously changing my life. That's for sure. And I see from the feedback from the coaches, it's been very, very positive.
Thank you.